Hi, everyone. I want everybody to please close their eyes right now and imagine this. You're at the office working late because you had a big deadline to meet. You realize it's almost midnight and you have to get home. On your drive back, you stop at a red light. The light turns green and you start driving, and then suddenly everything goes black. Somebody ran a red light and T-boned your car. The next time you wake up, you're in a room at the hospital. Somebody knocks at the door, and you look up and the doctor walks in. The doctor walks over to your bedside and tells you that you were in a car accident. But besides a few bruises and some broken ribs, you'll make a full recovery. Now open your eyes. Who was your doctor? Was she a black woman? Did she look like me wearing a hijab? Was he Hispanic? Or was he a white male? Over 66% of doctors in America are male, and 58% of medical school graduates are white. So you probably aren't wrong in thinking that it was a white man. But that's exactly the issue that we're here to address today. The white male as a norm gives us an insight on the way that we view certain professions, especially those in science, technology, engineering, and math. My mom decided to pursue anesthesiology, a specialty in medicine that's over 63% male. Born and raised in Pakistan, my mom moved to the United States with my dad in 2000 to pursue a residency in anesthesiology. Only a year later, 9/11 happened. After that, her hijab, something that set her apart from her peers, now made her hyper-visible. Once, during her residency, she was called for a consult because one of the nurses was having trouble with the patient's IV. When she arrived, the man panicked and asked, "Are you going to hurt me?" He had become scared when he saw her headscarf. In a moment, it seemed like despite all of her hard work, the early mornings she spent studying, the late nights that she spent in the OR saving lives, nothing mattered. She was just the other. She dealt with the situation well. She comforted him and did her job, and later the man even apologized and said that he was sorry. Yet the moment still resonates with her today. As a Muslim woman of color whose first language isn't English, she didn't just deal with the more apparent signs of her otherness, like the looks she got or the blatant comments from her patients who said that they didn't want her to treat them. But she also had to deal with the subtle undermining and distrust from her superiors. When we talk about minorities in the STEM, a lot of the conversation is how to get more minorities into the field where they are scarce. We talk about programs and initiatives and scholarships that aim to specifically these minorities. We brainstorm ways to get girls more involved in engineering, and we cite statistics that show positive trends. All of this is great, and it is necessary. But doing so only treats the symptoms and not the disease. While it's really important to get minorities involved in the STEM field, it's only half the battle. We need to help them stay there, and a lot of that has to do with how minorities in the STEM field are treated. Rather than reinforcing doubt and oftentimes a lack of respect, if we move away from making people the other and the idea of the norm and create a more inclusive environment where minorities are welcome, then we will be taking one step forward in retaining minorities and encouraging them to join the STEM field. Let me give you an example. Part of my mom's residency was that they had weekly presentations that the residents had to give. So for each presentation, normally 20 people would come. But when it was her time to present, only 6 or 7 showed up. It had nothing to do with her, but more a reflection of her coworkers, who didn't see her work or her opinion as important. It didn't matter that she had gone through all of the same education as them or that she finished top of her class, because at that point, she was deemed an outsider, and that's all that they saw. When my mom gave a clinical diagnosis during a consult, doctors would often go to her attending, and they would verify if it was correct, and most of the time, which it was. Besides fighting off her own self-doubts, she had to fight off other people's doubts in her. It's not something that's just exclusive to my mom. A study in 1998 found that patients are twice as likely to interrupt a female doctor than a male doctor. My mom used these experiences to motivate herself and to make sure that she was always prepared. But it's greater than her story. Minorities face similar assumptions and discrimination every day across all fields, and not all of them make it to the other side. During my mom's fellowship, she had a female coworker from Poland who ended up quitting because she felt overwhelmed by the toxic environment. Minorities leaving the STEM field perpetuates the problem further. If you don't have minorities making it to the top, then who are the younger generations supposed to look up to? Who are they supposed to be inspired by? I've been blessed to have my mom because I've seen her persevere and blossom in even the murkiest of places. But there's still a grim truth to her story. I look at my grades and I look at my success in school, and I wonder if that's enough when I become a doctor. Because for my mom, it wasn't. Standing here today, maybe I can't change the way that people think, but I can try and serve as a reminder. I'm a real person with a real story, and there are many more like me. Changing our mindset doesn't just happen overnight, though. It requires persistence and it requires time. But certainly the first step is a conversation like this, where we can become more aware of how to affect change. In order to truly resolve this disparity of minorities in the STEM field, we have to change our attitude towards minority and stop making them the other. Yes, minorities are different. Yes, minorities might speak a different language or wear different clothes. But we don't have to be a minority to understand what it means to provide for your family. You don't have to be a minority to know what it means to work hard. We don't have to be a minority to understand what it means to have a dream. You just have to be a person. Thank you.